Chris, what is our third main topic today?
This one comes from Edward. I just don't understand Hollywood sometimes. I saw a report that Jow Casey, who created the America Chavez character, wasn't compensated at all for the character being in Doctor Strange 2. It looks like they offered him like $5,000, but he turned it down because he said it was an insult. This movie will probably make $1 billion. What gives?
All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Edward. And this kind of continues a conversation we've been having on this show for a couple of years now, particularly like sometimes about some DC characters, but particularly surrounding Marvel and the MCU. And the whole question of why don't the creators of these characters get paid anything? Because it came out about a year and a half ago. I remember us talking about one property in particular where it's like, I think it was the Black Panther creator, I think. And like one of the creators got paid no money despite the fact that Black Panther made $1 billion and whatnot. Well, in this case, we have that the creator of the character, America Chavez, and of course, America Chavez is now in Doctor Strange 2. We see her prominently in the trailer as it's her and Strange kind of breaking through the various dimensions and going through things. And she's going to be a prominent character in this thing. That Jow Casey, who created the character, wrote that he was offered a pittance ahead of his character big screen's debut. Apparently he was offered like $5,000. That Marvel said, hey, we'll give you $5,000. And he said no. He said, that's an insult. This comes to us from the folks over at the Hollywood Reporter who write the following. For comic book writer Jow Casey, seeing Chavez soar to new heights is bittersweet. Casey is proud of his work on America Chavez and what she represents. Yet, like many comic book writers before him, Casey feels a tinge of regret watching his creation take off without him being meaningfully compensated for it. Casey has not received payment for America Chavez outside of the page rates he got paid when working for Marvel as a writer when he and artist Nick Dragotta introduced the character in 2011. Casey rejected what he describes as a pittance of an offer ahead of her Multiverse of Madness appearance. The fact is, Marvel owns America Chavez, he says. That's not in dispute on any level. But there are still systemic flaws in the way that creators are neither respected nor rewarded. And that came to us from the folks at the Hollywood Reporter. All right. This is interesting. But I'm going to say, again, something that I know is going to be completely unpopular. But it's what we said before, and I think it still applies here. Marvel is under no obligation to give Joe any additional money. They paid him to create this character. They paid for the work. And he got paid. And he says himself, to his credit, he says himself in here, it's like, Marvel owns it. No doubt. Marvel owns the character. It's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. And as Robert Meyer Burnett often says in situations like this, he says, look, it's not called show friends, it's show business. You don't, another saying of his is, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And when he entered into a working relationship with Marvel, he signed a contract that at the time he felt was fair, that he would get paid X amount of dollars to do certain creative work, and that creative work would then belong to Marvel, and that's all he gets. And he thought that was a good deal at the time, and he signed it. The character now belongs to Marvel. It's theirs. And they are under no obligation to give any additional money to anybody else. It's not show friends, it's show business. Now, you can bring up the question about, well, considering that Doctor Strange 2, as the person who wrote in the email said, considering Doctor Strange 2 is probably going to make $1 billion at the box office, couldn't you throw the guy a bone? You can, but here's the problem. If you do, you create what we refer to as precedent. Because now, anytime they do something, somebody else who also has no contractual rights to a character can come out and say, well, hey, I worked on this other character and you paid that guy, I don't know, let's make up a number, $100,000. You paid that guy $100,000, so give it to me too. So they do have to be careful about what's that. Look, I saw another YouTuber make a really good example of this. Said, imagine you got hired to create a new kind of bat, like a new design on a bat, right? And you got paid $20,000 to create this bat. Great, you create the bat. Well, now some dude on the Boston Red Sox uses that bat to hit a home run in the World Series, win the World Series, and he got hundreds of $millions of contracts and endorsements as a result of hitting a home run off a bat that you created. Or is that designer entitled to more money? No. They created the bat. And that's it. And here's the thing. Was he obligated to return the money that Marvel paid him if America Chavez was a flop? Like if they put America Chavez in the first comic book and everybody hated the character and they never used the character again, did he have to give money back to Marvel? No, of course not. He got paid for his work, and whether it worked or not, that's not his problem. That's Marvel's problem. But at the same time, he's not entitled to get more money because it did work. He got paid for his work. And that's kind of the bottom line. Look, again, I agree. Would it be nice if Marvel made a gesture? It absolutely would be. But, we just watched The Godfather again recently, Ray. It's business. And business says, we signed a contract, you fulfilled it, and we fulfilled it by paying you for your work. And that just is what it is. And if you want more, then you need to negotiate for that when you sign your contract. And if you sign the contract, that means you agree with it. So again, I'm not saying it feels good.
Yeah.
Because it feels yucky. This movie's going to make $1 billion. So it does kind of feel yucky. I agree, 100%. But should they do more? I'm not convinced they should. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, ExpressVPN. Now, guys, does it make sense that the same company who controls half the online retail also passively eavesdrops on your private conversations at home? Or what about the idea that a single company controls 90% of the internet searches, runs your email service, and gets to track everything you do on your smartphone? You guys know that big tech is more powerful than most countries are, and they profit by exploiting your personal data. It's time to put a layer of protection between your online activity and these tech juggernauts. And that's why I use ExpressVPN. You see, when you run ExpressVPN on your device, the software hides your IP address, something that big tech companies can use to personally identify you. So ExpressVPN makes your activity harder to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your internet data to keep you safe from hackers and eavesdroppers on your network. So stop handing over your personal data to the big tech monopoly that mines your activity and sells your information. Protect yourself with a VPN that I trust to keep me safe online. Visit expressvpn.com/Campea. That's expressvpn.com/Campea to get 3 extra months free. Go to expressvpn.com/Campea right now to learn more. Anyway, Chris, listen, this is a constant debate and dispute and issue that goes on between creatives and artists and the people who pay for everything. And when does credit get given? When is additional money earned and all that kind of stuff? It's a touchy subject, and I don't think there's a one answer that covers all of it. But when you look at this one specific instance, how does it feel as a creative yourself and as an artist? Yeah. But what do you think should come of this? I mean, it's a touchy subject. I agree, but what do you think?
And it definitely does feel yucky. But and this is how this has been for years. I mean, Siegel and Schuster sold Superman for like, what, $130 or something like that?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
This has happened for ages. Jack Kirby has gone on record before talking about how he was mistreated and didn't get the financial compensation he should have, despite creating most of the Marvel Universe with Stan Lee. So it feels gross, especially when you think about not just this movie, but the other things here are action figures of her.
Yeah,
of
merchandising.
Her appearances in video games, in cartoons, T-shirts, all these kinds of things. Because America is a character who did blow up, right? She's a Puerto Rican superhero. She's an openly gay superhero. So a lot of people felt seen in this character. But it does go back to that initial negotiation, which is a really big bummer. What I like, though, too, is Casey is being real smart about this. And it goes on to say in The Hollywood Reporter, for me, it's not about money. It's not even about the respect. I would never, ever be respected by a corporation. But if I'm in a position where I can afford to not take their insult of an offer and be able to talk about it, maybe the next guy where that kind of money could change their life would get a fair shot of receiving that money. I'm a happy guy. I'm not disgruntled. I'm not bitter because I know how this goes. I also know this is how you change things by talking about it. So I am happy that he's using this moment as a potential teaching moment, as a platform moment, right? I'm going, hey, we all know that Marvel makes a lot of money. Do we think this is fair and reasonable? Tell me how it's not fair and reasonable, Marvel. So I think he's being really smart about this. I do think that he deserves a little more money. But again, I understand if that's what you sign on the dotted line, that number amount, if you agreed to it, that is what you get for now.
Yeah. Again, look, I just had somebody in the live chat say, to quote me, and it's true. Somebody in the live chat named Chad Joy says, John, you've even said verbatim, just because you have the right to say something does not make it right. That's true. Just because Marvel has an absolute right not to give extra money to this person doesn't mean it's right for them not to give to that person.
Yeah.
But it does mean they're not wrong for not giving it to that person. Look, everybody's an expert with what other people should do with their money. And everybody's a massive hypocrite. We all are when it comes to money and how we should treat our money, because we do it very differently, right? You hire a contractor to come and paint your living room and you agree to pay them $1,000 and you say to them, wow, you did a great job. I'm going to host a lot of parties in here. I'm going to love living here. The guy said, oh, great. Maybe you can give me more than 1,000. You're going to go, no, we agreed to 1,000. I'm giving you 1,000. Goodbye. Does that make that right? No, but you're not wrong for sticking by the contract. Look, we had an agreement. We fulfilled our end of the agreement and you fulfilled your end of the agreement. Our business relationship, our business is concluded. If our movie bombs and people hate the character, we're not going to ask you to give back the money because that's not in the contract. But if it is successful and we make money, we don't owe you any additional. And I think what Joe said is very important here. What Joe said here is that, look, if I can raise awareness to this now so that the new people coming along who are signing these initial contracts, you need to start figuring out a way in the new landscape. You've got to put into these things creations that I create, that I come up with my brain cells. If you guys go on to do motion pictures, television, whatever, I need to be compensated this way, and this way.
Yeah.
You need to start putting that into your agreement, because if it's not in the contract, they don't owe it to you. You can't expect anybody to give you something they don't owe you.
Well, and a lot of times too, when you're an artist starting out, you take these offers because, oh my gosh, that's more money than anyone's ever given me. Oh my gosh, I need this money right now because who knows when I'm going to work again. And Casey's been there since the 90s, you know? When he was first creating characters, who knows if he thought he had any longevity to his career? Who knows if he thought his characters were going to be wildly successful or that he'd get to do runs on X-Men or things like that. So when you get an offer in front of you and you're young and wide-eyed and hopeful and you just need to pay your rent.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing comics for Marvel, you're probably living in New York sharing a one bedroom with 7 other people. You're going to take what money you get. And we need people to talk to artists about, hey, make sure you're paid what you're worth and not what you feel like you're worth right now. Think about 10 years from you, how that person's worth needs to be determined too.
But at the same time, that's tough, though.
Yeah.
To include that in like a contract, maybe you don't end up even getting hired because Marvel's like, no, no, we'll just look for someone else, right? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you're an unknown comic writer or artist and you have a chance to work for this big company to get your name out, I mean, and what's stopping you from getting hired is all these stipulations. I don't know. I wanted to stay off the subject because I had like different feelings about everything about it, but yeah, it's a tough situation. Like I agree he should get paid more, but Marvel doesn't have to pay him more.
I mean, and that's the thing. Nobody, no company, no neighbor, no friend is going to pay you more than what they owe you. Mm-hmm. And so it's got to change. If it's going to change, it has to change on that level.
Yeah.
And we'll have to, I don't know. Maybe Marvel has to start saying, okay, here's the deal. We'll pay you this much money to create these characters, but you've got to agree that if we're never able to make anything out of the character, you got to give us half the money back. No one's going to sign that deal. Of course, nobody would sign that deal, and nobody should. But it's tough.
I mean, for me, if it was a character that I made, I meant just to see that on screen, like just because this is just me. This is not any artist because they've probably been doing this for years. But if it's just a creation I made, and I'll be like, go ahead, use it. You don't even have to pay me. I just want to see it on screen, you know? So there's that part of me that talks because, you know, I'm really proud of what I made. I don't need money. It's going to be on the big screen. Everyone's going to know who created it, and that's it. But these artists, they've been working in whatever conditions they're under. They do need to get paid with the amount of money that these movies are making.
Yeah,
there should be something there.
But I mean, if you're not owed,
yeah,
I mean,
you're not owed though.
I was in a similar situation, right? I was working for Complex, and I created. Now I was being paid a salary. I was being paid for my work, and a couple of shows that I produced and created got picked up by a network that no longer exists. It was what was the name of Verizon's network again?
F90 or Go 90.
Go 90. Yeah. Thank you. It's like, so Verizon had their own network, and we had a couple of our shows picked up, right? For obscene amount of money. Like not by Marvel or Disney scales, but by our scale, obscene amount of money. I didn't get $1 of bonus for creating those shows. And that I understood that because I was being paid a salary. I was being paid to create shows. I was being paid to produce shows. That's what I was being paid for. That's why I was on the payroll. And when one of those shows got picked up by Go 90 and got like, there are other people involved, so I can't say the dollar number, but the obscene amount of money that Complex got for that show being picked up, I never got a single dollar of a bonus. But I understood that because hey, I'm just doing my job. That's my job. So I don't know. Listen, I'm making it sound as if I think it's a clear cut and simple. It's not clear cut and simple. There's a lot of different layers of how this feels and how it looks and all that kind of stuff. But again, everybody who's complaining right now that they absolutely should pay them more, you're not going to pay your contractor more other than what you owe them. You're not going to pay anybody more than what you owe them. So I don't know. It's tough. It's hard.
At least artists now will handle things differently. Hopefully. This is evidence of what. Yeah. Hopefully, it'll help the future of the industry to get paid. You know?
I think that's what Joe is saying in his main thing. That hopefully, by me raising this right now, will be a signal to people coming up that you have to start working these things into your deals. Because if it's not in your deal, a company doesn't have to pay you anything other than what you agree to. So here's hoping this sort of changes. Anyway, guys, this is a complicated. Maybe I'm making it sound like it's simple. It's not simple at all. This is a complicated thing, and my feelings on it could change. But anyway, how do you feel about this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there.